Germany and the European Union rely on voluntary admission when distributing the millions of refugees from Ukraine. At the meeting with her EU colleagues in Brussels, German Interior Minister Nancy Faeser no longer wanted to hear about a mandatory quota for the EU countries. Other states also rejected the concept, which had already failed during the great refugee movement of 2015 and 2016, and instead invoked European solidarity. Faeser thus clearly distanced herself from earlier statements. In the middle of the month, she had told the German magazine Spiegel that the goal must be a distribution of the Ukraine refugees within Europe according to fixed quotas. According to the United Nations, more than 3.8 million of the more than 44 million Ukrainians have left the country since the beginning of the Russian war of aggression. More than 2 million of these war refugees have arrived in Poland alone. So far, 272,000 refugees have been registered here in Germany. However, since there are no fixed border checks, the number of refugees in Germany is likely to be significantly higher. At the beginning of March, the EU states decided to offer all Ukrainians protection quickly and unbureaucratically. Johnson, do you hear that? Faeser now makes it clear. It's not about fixed quotas today, it's about a solidarity-based distribution system. In the past few weeks, great solidarity has been achieved among the EU countries. This should now be built on. This change, of course, is probably also due to the power of the factual, because supporters of such a quota cannot be found in the EU. Many still remember the dispute from a few years ago, when Poland, Hungary and the Czech Republic vehemently opposed such a system. A resolution for the distribution of up to 160,000 people was then pushed through by majority decision, but its implementation met with resistance. The dispute went as far as the European Court of Justice, and trust was destroyed. German Chancellor Olaf Scholz is making the other EU countries responsible. So far, many of those seeking protection have mainly arrived in the countries bordering Ukraine and in Germany. That's what Scholz says. Now it must be a question of other countries also taking in a proportion of the people who do not know exactly where to go. Clear commitments are needed here, and they exist, but we don't believe in quotas, said Austria's Minister Gerhard Kahner, and Commissioner Johansson said, we're not working on any quotas. But how should people be distributed then? Johansson proposed an index to make voluntary distribution easier as part of a 10-point plan for more EU coordination. This should take into account how many refugees, not just from Ukraine, are currently in a country in relation to the size of the population. The aim is for EU countries to offer each other to take in people when others are particularly burdened. Part of the 10-point plan of the EU Commission and the French Council presidency is also better control of the transport of refugees in the EU, more protection for children, and an EU-wide system for registering people. In the opposition, Faeser is already heavily criticized here in Germany. The German Union accuses her of a lack of foresight. Instead of acting consistently from the start, Ms. Faeser lets a lot of things go and then has to correct herself, says the parliamentary group spokesman for domestic affairs, Alexander Trom from the CDU. That's a real problem because some things can no longer be changed, he says. Faeser should have pushed for admission quotas from all member states when the mass influx directive was passed. The directive actually stipulates this as mandatory. Now she's in the position of a petitioner at EU level. The problems that exist across the EU on a large scale are also similar here in Germany. Here the willingness of the population to help the war refugees is still great. At the same time, however, a number of mayors and voluntary helpers have clearly criticized what they see as an inadequate organization and division of tasks, especially in cities where a particularly large number of people seek refuge. There is still no agreement between the federal and state governments on the distribution of the costs for accommodation, care and integration. A working group is to submit a proposal no later than April 7th. But seriously, this federal government did not act. It set up a working group. Seriously. I'll see you in my next video. Bis gleich.